When I first played Deltarune, I found it to be instantly great. I was around 13 when it came out, and as middle schoolers do, I got incredibly autistic about it immediately. I remember one of my longest standing friendships was formed entirely because of the Deltarune amino and the roleplays we got to do. It was fun. I frequently played as one character through all of our ancient chat logs though. Susie. I had been bullied that entire 3-year stretch of my life, so getting to be her, if even in a role-playing sense, was incredibly cathartic to me. I got to project all of my anger, insecurities, and issues onto her, and then have her overcome them by sheer force of will. Imagine my shock when I found out that she's just like me for real. Deltarune as a whole means a lot to me. Without it, I wouldn't have found my friend, and they wouldn't have gotten me to reject my violently fascistic upbringing, and in turn, actually helped me learn that I'm worth a piss. Now with the recent additions of the new chapters, and more information about Susie, I'm finding that my adoration of her has grown significantly. And given how since then I've learned to objectively and subjectively rank media, fun little trick for doing that, first find out what the author is trying to say, whether or not that's a good message, and then how good or bad they do it. I think I can say that Susie, even despite all of my incredibly biased love toward her, is probably the best character currently in Deltarune, because her story is one of learning to love, and learning to be loved after so many years without any love. So as we've learned in chapters 3 and 4, Susie is one of those kids. The kind who move from house to house every couple of years. The effects on a child's health brought on by this constant moving are extremely negative. Imagine you feel stable in your community. You have some friends, you walk to and from school every day, you go down to the local corner store to get yourself some candy, maybe you go out to eat every now and then. Everything is normal. Then one day it's 3 AM and you're on the interstate in a U-Haul going to Milwaukee. Your entire life has been uprooted, and if you're especially unlucky, you won't even get a full explanation as to why. We don't know what Susie's sense of normal was, and we can only really infer that her parents aren't the best, but the facts as we understand them are, she moves around from place to place a lot, she doesn't talk to her parents if she can help it, and she's never been able to make many friends. I'm gonna get into some theorizing here, but I feel like I'm in a unique place to do so because I similarly had to move around a lot during my childhood, and I've had people shit on me for the crime of existing. See, I have ADHD and ODD, and I've had that diagnosis ever since I was 7. And I didn't fully understand it at the time, but my disability would affect how a lot of adults treated me. Simply put, I was almost never into the idea of just doing something because I was told to do it. Because I said so, and because it's the rules, are a surefire way to get me to just not do what it is you're asking. And when a child does this, a lot of really pissy adults will deem you to be a problem, translating into no one ever respecting you again. When you do one thing that irks an especially petulant teacher, which is a lot of them, with a wave of their hand, they will signal to everyone else that you are a problem. I can't speak on whether or not Susie has any sort of learning disabilities, but I know this to be true. Something happened and she basically had Problem Child written in all caps with red ink and 3 underlines at the top of her permanent record. And no one ever treated her as anything but that thing we have to work around and hope it doesn't influence the good children too much. It's clear that Susie has been mistreated from her first appearance. No one just kicks the door open, says 3 words, and then slams it completely unprompted. No one just threatens to genuinely maim someone because they saw her eating chalk. No one does these things without a history of terrible caretaking. We learn that this public perception as the bad kid goes really far back. When Susie was especially young, she was in some sort of church or choir club, and got in trouble for screeching Amazing Grace off key. This was her first time singing it, and she was reprimanded for not instantly getting it, probably like the other kids. The piano story is the one people talk about the most, and for good reason. In the piano story, she details how once she tried to play a public piano for fun, and was told that she wasn't allowed, and that they let somebody else play. She attributes this to either her not being good or not looking like she's supposed to be playing it. So she came back in the middle of the night, and she smashed it. Here's the thing though, the entire purpose of a public piano is for it to be used by the public. So the fact that someone, presumably multiple people, came up to her and told her that she wasn't allowed to is incredibly fucked up. The fact that they went out of their way to tell a little girl that she wasn't allowed to play a public piano is just rancid behavior for an adult. And the fact that they let somebody else play right after really lays out what Susie's primary issue is. When she was banned from using the piano, she was effectively told, "You are not a part of us. You are an outsider. Don't ever expect us to like you." And from teachers to peers to random-ass adults on the street to maybe even her own fucking parents, this is what she's been told every single time she's moved to a new place. So we have her inability to make lasting friendships spurred on by her moving so much, countered on by the fact that instead of being perceived as the new kid, she's instead perceived as the outsider. This could occur for many reasons. It could be because of how she looks. It could be because of how teachers treat her once they see defiant little gutter snipe written on her file in big bold print. It could be because of her family. It could be because she doesn't really talk to anyone. It could could be because she doesn't act like a lady, whatever the fuck that means. Or it could be because of her tail. You know, I heard something about lost kids following pointed tails, but I'm not quite sure that tracks, and oh my fucking god! But yeah, it could be a bunch of reasons. And it's not like this is kept particularly secret from her. Susie has a very crass personality. She's the kind of person to make friends by dishing out well-meaning barbs, punches to the arms, general dumbassery. And some people might get the completely wrong idea from that. See, every Lightner kid we've seen go into a dark world is some flavor of the weird kid. And weird kids get misunderstood a lot. So it's entirely possible that people misunderstand her crass and rude attitude as blatant insults and nothing more. And like most people, they either don't know or don't care enough to actually explain to her why that's wrong. Only that it is wrong. And that she was wrong for behaving like that. This happens to a lot of kids, and it was usually on us to figure out that that's a shitty way to teach people. You don't teach someone that an action is wrong by shaming them into not doing it. You can shame somebody into doing what you want, but that's not at all the proper way to go about it. You tell them. You tell them why saying that is rude, and you tell them to speak their mind more clearly. I know that I keep banging this drum on like every single fucking video, but open communication is the solution to 70% of your problems. All of this is to say, Susie usually got in trouble for reasons she didn't understand, and no one ever bothered to explain why, so she continued to not understand, and that creates a very angry child. Because in their mind, they're being punished for no reason, for something that they didn't know was wrong, or bad, or rude, or mean. And whenever you demand a reason, you're just called disrespectful until you shut up and accept your punishment. And when you're constantly the kid getting in trouble, other kids will either see that and abuse you because it's not like anybody will help you, or see that and do everything in their power to steer clear of you. When you're told by everyone around you that you are mean, that you are scary, that you are bad, and that you are not good enough, you begin to lose hope. Because when this happens, people tend to not see you as anything else. And once you've lost all hope, you might just become the monster they say you are. If they're just going to say you're all of these horrible things anyway, then why should you care about proving them wrong? Why should you care about being good, especially if these supposedly good people are treating you like this? Why should you talk to any of them? Why should you do your classwork? Why should you bother to say one kind word to or do one kind thing for anyone? By Susie's own admission, people tend to only pretend to want to be her friend as a joke, and blatantly lying to someone like that will only exacerbate everything I've laid out here. Susie doesn't see a reason to try anymore, so she is cold, bitter. She adopts the personality of a cup of coffee that's sat out for too long, and being this way hurts sometimes. She's been forced to don a suit of thorns, one whose barbs protect as much as they harm. Nothing but her chest plate embedded into her skin can hurt her now, and she feels like she can never take it off. Because what if, the moment she does, someone takes a swing and shatters her completely? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. She probably doesn't think this as poetically as it's been phrased, but she does still think this. So if being alone forever means she'll never have to experience the pain of being hurt, that is what she'll do. She will slam doors, and she will threaten people, and she will be nasty. Because all of that will keep people away. In a way, this is a twisted arrival at some sense of self-respect, because even though Susie doesn't like herself very much, she still wants better for herself. But something gets in the way of this. Despite her efforts, Susie still has a ginormous heart. And a dear friend has told her to remain hopeful. And while her intentional rudeness stops people from seeing it most of the time, occasionally, the rays of her warmth shine through onto someone else. And lucky for her, she's about to meet some very wonderful people. It's an average day in hometown. Susie trudges out of bed, half-heartedly brushes her hair before deciding to say fuck it and heads off to school. She kicks open the classroom door and is told she's being paired up with the weird human kid for a school project. She doesn't really care though. Elphys can't find her chalk, so she sends Susie and KRIS out to go find it. Where Susie then eats the chalk she swiped yesterday because she's hungry and felt like it. When she turns around, KRIS is there, po-faced with covered eyes. She asks if they saw, to which they don't respond. Immediately she's gotten it into her head that this is some sort of slight against her. She knows everyone avoids her because they're scared. She knows she can force KRIS' silence. So she picks them up and... This is the first time we get to see into Susie's head. She's immediately picturing KRIS as just another jackass who only plots on her downfall, and as such, deserves none of her respect. Well, almost none of it. A little bit ago, she walked herself into the graveyard in hometown, and she let loose. She doffs her armor and lets her tears flow freely. And for the first time in a long time, someone came to comfort her. Toriel. She asked what was wrong, dried her tears, and told her everything would be okay. Then she took her to the diner for some comfort food. She told her that she would make friends. Not that she hoped she would make friends, but that she would make friends. And for somebody as hopeless as Susie, for somebody who's given up on ever having a single friend, that meant a lot. Susie respected her for having the compassion to see the scary girl not as a threat, but as, well, a child in need of comfort. So Susie decided she was okay, and she decided that KRIS, by extension, was okay. And as she learned more about them, she decided that they were more okay than most. Like an especially not-so-bad classmate you wouldn't mind talking at. But she has to keep up her image of the one you do not fuck with. She has to show them that they are not friends, and that she has no intention of becoming their friend. They wander into the closet where the floor gives way. Then KRIS finds her, and she decides to stick with them because there's safety in numbers. Lancer attacks them, they run away and meet up with Rouse, who tells them that they have the power to save the world. To which Susie responds, no? Susie's idea of heroes are people who are good. Objectively good, and she's objectively bad in her eyes. But her definition of a good person is pompous dick who lords their goodness over others. And her definition of a bad person is bitch who don't care what anyone says so long as she has her fun. Also, something funny with her is that from here on out, up until she befriends Lancer, she's just so done with everything. Like, from the moment she's down here, she's practically spamming the how to exit the Dark World button. I hear this is what Alice in Wonderland is like. She does take a brief aside to beat Lancer's ass, though. She smiles when he says, "Lamau, I'm gonna bite your shins," because it's basically giving her the green light to splatter his gushy insides all over the tile floor, which she instantly tries to do when you have the option to immediately nullify. After he leaves, Susie tells Rouse to take off his dumb cloak, revealing this SpongeBob SquarePants head-ass motherfucker. Something of note is that from the moment Rouse says, "We're going to be great friends," Susie instantly asks where the exit is and leaves. In her mind, this is the 12th goddamn time someone said, "Hi, I want to be your friend," with all these fake niceties. She's thinking, oh, here we go again. She thinks it's a front because, well, if this guy asked to be your friend in middle school right off the bat, you'd probably say no. That's something a lot of kids would consider odd after 4th grade. No one asked to just be friends, they just be friends. No one is this kind or open. And in Susie's case, she thinks that no one's ever this kind or open to her. So she dips and tells the actually cool person in the room that she'll see them later. She roams around the Dark World, beats people up, eating cakes, making herself public enemy number 1 so no one distracts her from getting the fuck out of Wonderland. Eventually, KRIS and Rouse meet up with her, and she begrudgingly follows them through the rest of the Dark World. And Susie keeps mistaking Rouse for a malicious actor who's just bent on getting her to do what he says. She reacts to basically everything he says with uncaring glances and rude remarks when he's just trying to be nice. Because like I said before, to her, he's just another asshole pretending to be nice who only wants her to behave, to bend to his will. So she'll make this experience as annoying for him as it is for her in hopes that he'll just waste his time on somebody who he can control. And something really cool is how this extends to her actions in battle. For most of the game, you cannot control Susie. She always attacks on every single turn, and you can't make her do anything else. This is because she's committed to doing to you what she's doing to Rouse, because now it's both of you trying to control her, and she's not having any of it. And this is an annoying feature of the game. It wastes a move on your part and or fucks up your perfect pacifist run, and it means that you can't spare a trio of enemies in one go, which is why it's a great element of the story. Toby does this a lot in his games. Sometimes he sacrifices the game being fair for the story being more enriching, which turns around and makes it a great part of the game. This annoying playstyle signals to you what kind of person Susie is, how she's defined to your control in a game where the most important thing you've heard so far is, your choices don't matter. Yet yours may not, but hers sure as hell do. The next time you meet Lancer, she tells him to shut the fuck up for being a cringe-ass dewdrop baby. See, as a mean girl, she's pretty acclimated to the idea of being mean and bad, and to her, Lancer just seems like some little pissant trying to wear her pain like a novelty t-shirt, rather than the soul-etching suit of armor that it really is. Almost like he's mocking her for the crime of having issues. So she threatens to kill him, belts out a loud, definitely propped up evil laugh, to which he starts complimenting her and thanking her, and this confuses the fuck out of her. Whoever heard of a kid thanking you for trying to scare him? And the reason Lancer wasn't scared is because from his first appearance, he's made it abundantly clear that this is all a game to him. The only one serious about defeating the Lightners is the king. Everybody else is either being underpaid to kill you or just doesn't care. It's stated outright later, but Lancer is in a similar position as Susie and KRIS. He's the weird kid who people don't really hang out with for being weird. So when some new people come down into the Dark World, even though he's been told he shouldn't interact with them, he still does. Because when he sees Susie and KRIS, he doesn't see enemies, he sees potential friends. And when he's friendly to Susie, she just kinda backs off. She's like, okay, that wasn't entirely terrible. Then things come to a head whenever they fight C-Round. Susie continues to attack despite the IV of almond milk permanently attached to this guy, and Rouse tells her that all she's doing is making things worse. Her constant escalation has been hurting more than it's helped. I've largely been explaining Susie's actions in a positive light here, but this is bad. Really bad, actually. Because even if you're reeling from some serious fuck shit you've gone through, nothing, will ever give you the green light to just beat the fuck out of people who can and should be talked down. Hurt people can hurt people. We all know this to be true, but it's important to remember that that's an explanation, not an annulment. And like with a lot of people in her situation, she's aware of this. It's easy to think that everyone's out to get you. It's easy to just never talk to anyone and have it in your head that you'll be alone forever. It's easy to think that if you just drive everyone away, you won't ever be hurt. But that's not true. Everyone needs love in their life, and so does Susie. So when she's faced with the reality that doing nothing but drive people away will leave her alone for the rest of her life, she instead focuses on the part where Rousey says for her to act like a hero, that she should do the thing he's telling her to do, and says, "You know what, fuck this, Lancer, let's go get some smoothies." And it makes sense that she'd switch onto his team. One, despite Rousey, and two, because he's closer to being mean than Green SpongeBob and coin-operated Smurf over here. And then they just become Team Rocket?
Prepare for trouble!
Make it double!
They're so fucking cute together, oh my god. As I rifled through the chapter more, I realized something. See, Susie characterized the prophecy, and KRIS going along with Rousey as them playing pretend earlier. Now, she's doing the same thing, but she's playing pretend in her own way, as the villain. She's not at all committed to genuinely harming these weenies. I mean, you can't even die to her in Lancer, but she'll play the role of evil bad guy just to have fun doing what she wants to do. In a way, she's fully gotten into the vibe. It's not just about going home anymore. It's about hanging out with her new friend. And seeing as this is her first friend in a long time, she's velcroed herself to him. And also she's teaching him swears. She's even worried about him when they get lost in the maze. Oh my god, this is fucking delightful. Something critical here, so after they form their villain team, Rousey backs off a bit. You'll notice that his dialogue is more so asking about their evil plan, pretending to be their foil, playing along with them. He knows he was right to say what he said, but he also knows that sometimes the raw, unadulterated truth can hurt more than it helps. Instead of deciding to do something else, he adopts a more, "I'll be here when you're ready" approach. And he even accepts Lancer joining the team later because, well, fucking look at him, he couldn't hurt a paper cup. Another thing I realized while writing here is that Susie's preferred form of enrichment is fighting. See, this ties in with her bad kid facade not totally being a facade. Susie isn't really bad, she's just rough and tumble. Subtract the bad kid label and she's still the kind who will tussle for fun. And this is a healthy outlet for her. I mean, it's not the best, she kind of forces you to fight her, but it's in a controlled environment wherein she doesn't intend to seriously hurt someone, and ends the fight whenever someone does get their shit rocked. After Lancer joins the team, they get to talking. This is the best part in any character-based story, by the way. The scene where they have nothing to do but talk, so that's exactly what they do. Susie starts speaking more openly about how she likes being in this world. More accurately, with Lancer. Rousey correctly identifies that she feels happy. At first she brushes them off, but then admits that, yeah, she's feeling happy. She's warming up to Rousey little by little, now that he's not issuing her commands. Lancer is anxious about them finding the king, so he tells them he has to run away forever. Susie, not content to lose her first friend in what feels like forever, chases after him, and then she's thrown in jail. After kindly inviting a guard to pee the trash can, 2 bed, 3 bath, that's such a low price, sign me right up, she gets help solving a puzzle and heads out. And then she overhears Lancer telling his guards to keep them all locked down there. She hears this, and she's shocked. Betrayal washes over her. It's happening again. It's happening again. And of course it is. Because why would anybody really want to be her friend anyway? Who wants to be friends with the wretched, horrible Susie? It had to be. It had to be another cruel joke. Because that's what it always is. That's what it's always been. She slips back into this mindset, the one stating that she is objectively unlovable. That's why she says it's fine immediately after, why she seems to almost instantly recover. Because it's easy to think that things could never change, that they'll always stay the same. No one liking the bad kid is normal, so she should never expect anything else. Not in here, not out there, not anywhere she moves to. And when people mess with the bad kid, she reminds everyone why she's the bad kid. The music tenses. Susie demands that Lancer get out of her way, and Lancer refuses. So Susie attacks. Lancer responds in kind, but he can't bring himself to hurt her seriously, so after a certain point, he starts missing. Susie's attacks hit harder. The tension bar keeps rising with every strike. Lancer wants to explain, but he never got the chance to. But the reason he's keeping her down here is so she and her father don't end up killing one another. In his eyes, he can't just move out of her way, so he just lets her attack him for the time being, because this is better than letting her go. And even as she says the nastiest, most heinous things to his face, that she doesn't care whether he lives or dies, that she'll kill him dead where he stands. because to him it's better for everyone if he gets knocked down while trying to save them both. Susie hates this situation she's in. She hates how she's been tricked. She hates how Lancer was her friend, and she hates how he did this to her. She hates how her heart feels like it's going to explode out of her chest. And primed for her final attack, Susie misses. Try as she might to convince herself, try as she might to take vengeance on the one who hurt her, she can't. Lancer was her first friend in a long time. And even though she's angry and violent and spiteful, her heart is simply too big to let her hurt her friend that badly. She pleads with him to get out of her way. She doesn't want to kill him. Lancer finally explains himself, and she takes a moment to think. I'd imagine she's relieved, and worried, and guilty, and feeling something she can't quite explain. Lancer tried to save her. He tried to save her. She tells him she'll talk things out with his dad. Lancer asks if they're still friends. And Susie says yes. There is one small problem, though. De-escalation is not her forte. However, the Weenie Squad is great at de-escalation. You know, a root canal would be less annoying for her to deal with right now. Susie asks for them to teach her how to act, and later on admits to KRIS that Rousey was right. Obstinance has only ever made things worse on this trek, and Susie knows herself well enough to know that being outwardly nice is not something she has experience in. So she tells KRIS, I'll trust you. And this is a big moment for her. Up until today, she didn't have any friends. Then, when explicitly faced with the reality that someone cared enough to keep her out of harm's way, to make sure no one hurt her, she reassessed a few things. Rousey was right before, but maybe he wasn't being an asshole about it. Maybe he really was trying to be her friend. Maybe his spongy kindness was just that. Kindness. And maybe he told her to start acting like a hero because he sees something heroic in her. And KRIS hasn't said a single negative thing to her all day. They haven't put her down, and depending on how you've played, you've only ever issued one command to her. And if you're playing correctly, at every turn they've been committed to causing the least harm to everyone here, including Susie. And she thinks maybe she was wrong about it earlier today. Maybe they wouldn't try and get her in trouble for stealing. I mean, they haven't really cared about anything else she's done, except for when she's hurting people. So while trusting these two is uncharted territory for her, and she's not entirely sure that it will turn out okay, she relents. She trusts KRIS, and she trusts Rousey to help her through this. She loosens her suit of thorns, and says, I'm counting on you. Okay? What follows is you meandering around Card Castle while Rousey and KRIS coach Susie through complimenting and flirting with people. And then we have some really cute and funny interactions between them all. This, like a lot of other scenes of Susie just being fucking cute, is delightful. And then we get to see the most magnificent thing to ever come out of this entire game series. Susie's idea.
Susie's idea!
See, Susie remembers from last time that the only way to get this guy off their asses is to make him a non-threat. And that crown is the only thing making him a threat, so the crown needs to come off for them to progress. So obviously the best solution is to throw Rousey and hope he dislodges the crown from its head. And it succeeds! In doing this, she comes to realize there's a million ways to skin a cat. Sometimes you have to beat ass, and sometimes you need to throw Rousey. This is compounded on by the scene where they meet up with the king, and when he threatens Lancer, she's instantly on the attack, and she yields when he threatens to kill him. Then, once he's safely out of the way, she tries to reason with him before realizing that the tyrannical king being unreasonable is a foregone conclusion. For the first time, the fuck squad is approaching a situation that is completely impossible to de-escalate. The king is absolutely committed to being as unreasonable as humanly possible. He is hellbent on hurting you. So what do you do in a situation such as this? Well, it's what you should do with all real-life tyrants. You beat the ever-loving shit out of them. It's possible to get through the fight without hurting him. I mean, he like busts his hip or something, and then you just kind of stop. But it doesn't really matter whether you do or don't, so you're free to just red buster him into oblivion. Get overthrown, dick snipe. Oh, speaking of which, I forgot to talk about Rude Buster. The only magic Susie has on her is Rude Buster. It's a move that does a metric fuckton and an imperial 2,204.6 gigafricks of damage. It's described as rude energy and uses a lot of TP. I interpret this as tensions getting so high that Susie gains the adrenaline necessary to dish out the magical equivalent of a haymaker. This, alongside her naturally high HP and high attack, cements her as the party's bruiser. That's really the most important part here. She's the bruiser for the party. Susie's a very violent person, and she's like that to protect herself from the people who only want to hurt her. And while that certainly helps with some situations, in the scene immediately preceding this, she states the crucial flaw with that way of thinking. There's some people you just gotta fight. But if you never let your guard down, you might just end up hurting someone you care about. Susie and Ralsei come to a better understanding of each other here. Kindness doesn't always win, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't try. Though she doesn't say it, Susie realizes that if she's going to fight, it's not just going to be for her protection anymore. It will be for KRIS's, and Ralsei's, and Lancer's. The ones who save her, who lead her through the dark. The ones who heal her when she's hurt. The ones who see nothing but the good in her, and the goodness she can inflict upon the world. The ones who love her, and the ones who she loves. After saying a quick goodbye to everyone, they go and seal the fountain. They come to in the unfinished classroom, wondering if any of that was even real. Susie's trying to be nonchalant about it, subconsciously seeing herself back at school where she has to put up a front. But she doesn't have to put up a front right now. Does she? No one's here. It's just her and KRIS. She wants to say something, so she does. Let's go back there tomorrow, right? So, yeah, I wasn't expecting Chapter 1 to give me this much to work with in terms of Susie's characterization. Looking back, with everything we know now, she's become an incredibly dense character. The script is 9 pages long, and I've literally only gone over her as she is in Chapter 1 with all the context surrounding her. I wasn't expecting to get more than 1 video out of this when I began scripting, but now I'm thinking that I might just get 2 or 3, and I'm happy I will because I love Susie. This is the beginning of a story about her finally making friends and being loved. And the next few chapters are all about her having fun with her friends. This is where Deltarune really shines. KRIS has grown distant from their friends. Ralsei never had any, and Susie practically never had any, and now all of them have found solidarity in one another. It's a truly beautiful story to read, and I'm so very excited to show you my findings for the next few chapters. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you liked it, tell me why, and if you didn't, also tell me why. I primarily make these videos to foster discussion, but I do intend to make money off of them at some point, so if you can share this around, that would really help me out. I'm Crab, and thank you for watching.